So I want to do a quick video on depression and the causes of it. Thank you very much for taking part in another of my videos. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on your show again.
Thank you. Okay, so just getting it straight into it. Andrew Tate, who not too long ago became a Muslim. I wouldn't say is exactly reflecting. Let's just get into it. He said depression is selfishness. And so I do happiness classes, and I'm going to say that there's a lot of truth, both from in agreement with Islam, and also with psychological evidence, and I'm happy for you to disagree, whatever, as usual, right? So let me quickly get from an Islamic point of view. The word Islam is a very interesting word. One word that can mean so much. Basically means peace, inner peace, outer peace as well. Okay, but it also means submit your will to God. Now, I'm going to try to break it down in easier words, because when people hear submit your will to God, they don't understand even what does that even mean. Okay, so I'm going to explain the word Islam in this sentence. Letting go of your selfish ego to find inner peace. And sorry, no, let me even correct that. To find inner peace by doing, by listening to God, who wants you to do be kind. Okay, that's kind of inferring, because basically, if you know about Islam, God says in Islam that the rights of man are greater than the rights of God. Meaning, God basically just wants you to be kind to humanity. That's basically Islam. So then I want to quickly touch on the psychology of it, really quickly. So why is it, what's the truth behind saying depression is selfishness? I think they're super connected, and this has been known by psychologists for a very, very long time. So very quickly, first of all, the most individualistic societies have the highest rates of depression and skyrocketing depression. And by the way, I'm not trying to just be controversial for the sake of it. I feel desperately sad for people who are suffering, and I want to alleviate that suffering. Otherwise, I really wouldn't bother with these videos, right? So that's one thing. So individualistic Western society, when I say Western society, that even includes Australia somehow, right? But it seems to represent an ideology of materialism and getting stuff for yourself and individualism. So I think that's a fair word to simplify the situation. Number two, just another example, Jordan Peterson said, people, when they say we more than the word me, so i.e. they think more about other people, they suffer less from depression. Okay, and then more broadly, for the most authoritative psychologist on this topic, Viktor Frankl, which I think you know we talked about before, he said, if you want to be happy, you have to live a life of meaning. And when he says a life of meaning, he means doing things for other people. So if you are selfish, you're going to have the opposite effect of happiness, basically, because you're not living a life of meaning, you're just doing stuff for yourself. So it's very strongly related. Any thoughts?
No, basically, I think that's not agree for the most part. I mean, at the same time, though, I think I don't think a depression. I think depression's kind of broad. We can't just say people get depressed because of selfishness. You know, there might be something might have been inflicted on them in their past, or they may have seen something that was very traumatic, and then that kind of gives them a depression as well. So it's you know, shouldn't generalize. I mean, depression's quite broad topic.
Okay, so there's two things. So there's you have suffering, and that has a real reason, and therefore you have a good reason to be depressed, is roughly what you're saying. If you're
in a sense,
yeah.
I mean, but also, I mean, I think if you went to someone who was depressed and you just said you're very selfish, I don't think that's helpful.
Yeah. So I was asking one or two people who are depressed about how I should portray it. Now, this information I'm giving has been around for about 70, 80 years, but because it's written in a book with lots of big words, maybe people don't understand it. And Andrew Tate seems to have is able to affect people by maybe keeping it really simple. Okay, and people maybe learn more. So I'm hoping people learn more. Maybe people who haven't learned any other way, maybe 1% might learn something from putting these these important things together, so people realize what do I want people to realize is that there's a myth going around that it's not your fault if you're depressed, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Now, that's really dangerous, and actually that's really depressing, because if it's just magical and it's unlucky, then you've got no hope for getting out of it. But if you know there's a solution, then right.
Well, yeah.
But also, it's really dangerous for another reason, because Big Pharma would be incredibly happy for you to keep believing that it's nothing to do with your social values or something. It's just an accident. You don't have enough serotonin in your brain, and they would be so happy to keep selling you more drugs.
Absolutely, 100%. Right? Yeah.
So that's why I think of it as dangerous, and I really want to help people in that sense. Now, yeah, I've suffered a lot of things. I didn't tell you why I've been away, but there's a lot of things that have happened to me, and people who look at my life, they go, wow, like, let's say there was one time where I lost a job, right, and I was still at the school, and I was smiling and happy, and the student asked me, why are you so happy? And I said, because I did the right thing, right? I would say loads of people have gone through a fraction of what I've gone through, from my experience of talking to them and the problems they suffer from, they're far less happy. So my point is that there are certain values that you can have that will protect you. So you said they might be going through some genuine suffering, okay? And I don't want to disregard that at all. No, I don't want to disregard it. I'm going to give two answers. One is how you respond to it is depending on your, I don't want to call it mental strength, but your mental philosophy of how you look at it, right? Okay. And the other thing is you should make better choices, not to just avoid unhappiness, because you shouldn't avoid life, but you should just make better choices so you are less depressed. So why are people depressed? One of the biggest reasons is loneliness.
Yeah. So
you should be involved in the community and give to the community. I don't actually care about making videos, but I do it out of duty.
Yes.
And then I get to meet people like you and have interesting conversations as a kind of a result. Okay? There's loads of things I do for free for other people, and I benefit from that. So those are two sort of elements. What do you think about that?
Well, no. I mean, I would agree. I mean, there's definitely causes for suffering, but equally there's like causes for suffering, but there are also causes that will end suffering. And it is true. Like, we don't necessarily always have 100% control of what happens around us, but we do have the means to gain control of ourselves, in a sense. Sorry. Yeah, we do have. We can't control what happens around us, but we can control how we respond, and that's kind of what's crucial. And also, I kind of another thing, kind of individualism. But there's also excessive liberalism. I think is another big problem. Like, people kind of saying they want like freedom, all this talk of freedom and stuff, but I don't know. Too much freedom isn't really that good. I mean.
Yeah, for example, if everybody had the freedom to be rude to everybody else, that wouldn't make you happier or anybody else happier.
Exactly, yes. So, and also another thing, key thing I think is important to like someone's well-being is, and kind of goes another argument against kind of the liberalism thing is, I think self-discipline is like really important. Like for example, these past 3 weeks, like because since I finished university, I've kind of just been staying at home too much. So I just decided, like, every day, if possible, I'm going to go for a run. And I haven't run anywhere in like 7 years, so I said just a short run, half an hour. I'll go to Kensington and then I'll come back, and that's kind of been like really good for me.
So
like,
routine, Jordan Peterson explains, is very important for your mental health.
Yeah.
If it's all random and it's chaos, is his kind of word, it's just really destructive.
Challenges you as well. Like for me, because I haven't run anywhere in 7 years, believe it or not. Like just doing this run has like been very good, and it's like I had to like challenge myself, and then I kind of feel like much more fulfilled in my life, strangely.
Yeah, I don't think it's strange. Okay, it's strange for a large majority of people because what they've been fed in the West is this idea that you don't need purpose, you can live an aimless life and you'll be happy. Well, even though the psychologists know the exact opposite. So you've been fed a lie. We're fed loads of lies, right? Absolutely. So Viktor Frankl says that if you want to be happy, you have to have a life of meaning, and that's another word for his purpose and a direction. Okay, so if you, for example, say, I'm going to try to get healthy so I can be a better person and more productive in the universe, whatever you want to call it, then great, that's going to make you happy.
The thinking wasn't necessarily quite as complex as that, but to a certain extent, the running thing for me, I thought there's sort of it's kind of a mental thing for me. Like I was watching, you remember that thing I told you about, the Real Men Real Style? Okay, I'll remind you.
This is when it gets embarrassing when you told me a story and I forgot. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. I mean, I'll remind you after the video.
I might get it when you give me a bit of a hint later on. But anyway.
Yes. But point is, like, the guy who runs it, he was kind of saying, it's like your body. You may think your body has certain limitations, but then if you persevere through it, you'll realize how much your body is like capable of. And apparently, I think that's like true, because like I kind of go out in my running clothes, and keep in mind this is like 3 weeks ago when it was -2, and I'm like shivering as I walk to the park. But then once you actually start moving, it's like it's fine. It's like I thought I'd never be able to do it, but then I did,
And that's a very interesting way of looking at depression, because depression, I'm not saying you are depressed, but depressed people think this is the only possibility, there's no way out, this is part of depression, hopelessness, right?
Yeah.
And so realize, I'm trying to make this video as useful as possible. So when you have that hopelessness comes from believing you 100% know reality. And that's where, coming back to the definition of Islam, you have to let go of your ego, which is telling you you're really smart. Because I find when the most depressed people are the ones who least understand the problem. When I tell them you need to do things for other people, they get really frustrated and angry. Not all of them, thankfully not all of them, okay? Because thankfully I wish people learn from it. So you have to believe beyond your current abilities. Like, say, there can be something out there because I don't know everything. If that makes any sense. It's the ego that limits you. I think we were just talking about Ryan Holiday, ego is the enemy.
Yes.
And I definitely recommend you watch short videos where he summarizes the whole book, right? And he will say, like, one of the big limitations people put on themselves is thinking they're really clever. Because when you think you're really clever, you stop learning. And so that's your ego, and that's why they're very closely related. In Islam, when you let go of your ego, your selfish desires, you stop thinking you're too clever, and therefore you learn. If you think you're too clever, you can't learn. And then also, you stop doing selfish things, therefore you're more social, and then you have a happier life.
Yes. Agreed.
Cool. And then just to wrap it up with I'm not sure if there's a small extra point, Andrew Tate also said that the reason why he doesn't listen to atheists is because they're depressed, which is, I've probably put some extra videos there, but there's a high correlation between being depressed and being atheist. And there's good logical reason, because if you're an atheist, that means you believe everything is random. I keep forgetting the word. Basically, there is no meaning in life, right? And therefore, you've cut off any possibility of meaning by saying there's no meaning in life. And therefore, according to Viktor Frankl, you can't be happy.
Is that a correct definition of atheism, though? I mean, I don't know. Is that?
I think it's a natural conclusion. If you think there's no intelligence that made the universe, that the whole universe is random, then there can be no purpose because it's all undirected.
Atheists believe in like the Big Bang, like so to them that's sort of the beginning of this world, so to speak.
Sure, I believe in the Big Bang as well. Yeah, but
okay, I mean,
I'm just saying they just think there was a Big Bang and there's a whole bunch of just chemicals floating around, and it's a whole one big accident, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Now, then there can be no meaning. You cannot create a meaning when none exists. So, for example, people like to think that's another major.
We're kind of getting into existentialism here.
Yeah, maybe I should cut it short, but I might wind up this point, I suppose. But maybe it's getting too boring and long. Basically, if there's when you have a remote control, I always talk about the remote control, which maybe we should upgrade to more newer technology, but there's a purpose because it's been designed. Maybe we should get closer, so we're going to wind up anyway. So you cannot create purpose when there is no purpose, because it's simply a figment of your imagination, right? If it's all random. And then you can say, I'm going to make my own purpose, and I'm not going to go into that because I made a whole video about purpose and how you can't create your own purpose, and you have to do your purpose according to the designer, otherwise you choose a really bad purpose which is actually unhealthy for you, which is a short version of that video. Any thoughts? Last thoughts?
Okay, on purpose. Okay, I mean, I don't know. I do have things I'd like to say, but I'm worried it's going to get too long.
Go on.
Okay, with the purpose, do you think there is one ultimate purpose, or is the purpose to find the ultimate truth? And is that truth? Is it possible that truth is so expansive that there are various avenues to get to the one absolute truth?
Okay, so that's like asking the remote control, is there only one purpose for that remote control? And effectively there really is, okay, which is to change the channels, increase the volume, but you get the idea. It's like one set of values, right? Okay, and so when you were created, and logically there must be a God, and we can go through about different ways, but intelligent creator doesn't do things randomly, and in the Quran it says there's a very specific purpose, which is basically to develop into infinity, to become more and more infinitely beautiful, right? That's the short version of the word ibadah, okay, which is roughly translated as worship, but that's very kind of low resolution explanation, okay? So you said, is the purpose to find truth? No, the purpose is to use truth to guide you to a better life. The truth is information to help you. There's no point just getting information if you don't follow the information. Does that help? Is that... and are there different paths to that? Well, they're just like a remote control. You might have the on and off button. You might be focusing on and off. You might increase the volume or decrease the volume. There are different buttons, but they all help control the TV. Okay, with you've got a body, and we're finding in this materialistic experiment in the West that you can't just do random things so you get depressed. If you just buy more and more stuff, it's not going to make you happy. As Tate says, well, since we're talking about him, materialism is a black hole, which everybody can probably guess what that means, right? So you can't just do random things. There are specific things that you need to do, and God has always been guiding us on how to live our best lives, and those are the truths. And that's it, really. Any thoughts?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.